So, hey guys, let's talk about the current meta for a little bit. So, quick play spells. Those things are just kind of absurd right now, and they're just all over the place. So before, I think it was like to a certain point, kind of tolerable, but now you're dealing with essentially your opponent's dropping like Forbidden Droplet. You also have um uh what was it called? I think it was still Forbidden, right? Um, let's see. Forbidden Crown, super polymerization. You're just getting hit by like essentially all of this nonsense. So I think the going second player, of course, deserves a chance to play the game somewhat, but being the going first player, like how are you supposed to deal with this nonsense to an extent? So I do appreciate like Forbidden Crown a little bit because there's like some nuance to this card now. Compared to like some other board breakers being like a little bit too brutal. So ideas of Forbidden Crown here. This card is still like super kind of oppressive if the going first player plays it. Yeah, but for specifically the going second player, assuming this helps you break your opponent's board, for the most part, you should not be able to game your opponent or have game versus your opponent. So notably, you apply every single effect here to a face-up monster on the field. So the card, so let's assume our opponent has a Baron de Fleur. We're going to negate Baron's effects, so it can't act. Well, it can activate its effects, but they will be negated. Baron will not be able to attack. Baron cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and it's also going to be unaffected by activated card effects, except for its own. It cannot be tributed, so you cannot like kaiju over it or anything. It cannot be used as material for a fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link summon, meaning you cannot Underworld Goddess it. So if you do not have an alt win con, then well, you have to give your opponent another turn. So there will be a turn 3, and you will in theory need to wait till turn 4 in order to be able to set up any form of OTK if you activate Forbidden Crown. Also, you can only respond to this card with spells or traps. You cannot respond with monster effects for either player. So that there is still like some ideas of playing Forbidden Crown a little bit, but it's not like that good because you'd have to use like a trap or quick play, and then you need to chain something to negate this. That or you have a trap negate it, which is okay, I guess. But that would probably be a Omni negate type of trap. That's typically how that goes to deal with the Forbidden Crown here. So still not great, but a little bit more playable, kind of, than like Droplet, but you don't actually have to worry about this as much whilst you're the going first player, because you do still get to keep whatever the monster is that they felt was so threatening. So for example, if I DP, not DP, if I Verte summon Dragoon, and they negate the Dragoon, they still can't remove the Dragoon, and I can use my pop effects here. The 2 pop effects I have on Dragoon the next turn because of it being summoned off of Red Eyes Fusion, and presumably we're going to send the 2 vanilla monsters for the Dragoon special summon. So there's that, right? But for Forbidden Droplet and then Super Poly, like I think Super Poly is a bit worse to deal with. Like your board having to play around Super Poly, pretty annoying. And I guess also worth talking about is going to be Fallen and the Virtuous. Like when you compound all this stuff together, it becomes like pretty bad. So you have the fact of sending a monster that mentions Fallen with all bad. So that's for the most part going to be like Albion, right? So that the idea here is like going to be Fallen and the Virtuous sends Albion, and then Albion's going to get you another copy of Fallen and the Virtuous that's going to be set, and that's going to be usable as well. So when we combine like all of these cards. So it's not just going to be branded. Like all of these cards, you could end up seeing this from like Radiant Typhoon or like Sky Striker or just like any assortment of like random assortment of these cards. You would just randomly end up seeing them and having to deal with this because they're just kind of all generic cards, right? So you can see just one of these, maybe two of these, or just all of them together in the same deck, and you just have to deal with it. But the most possible to play around, I think, is probably going to be actually like the Fallen and the Virtuous. Like, but believe it or not, this one's actually like the least bad. So if we go in order, I'd put like Fallen and the Virtuous as easiest to play around, followed by Forbidden Crown, Droplet, and then Super Poly being last here, in which case it's the hardest to play around, right? Because like your end board, depending on like what deck you're playing exactly, it's just going to end up being really Super Poly weak for whatever reason. So like for example, Darkwood, worst case scenario, you could just get hit by Super Poly and then they can summon like Triffy Overtone to your board. Or if you're playing like Rocket, for example, like technically, depending on exactly what happens, you could get hit by something similar to like Triffy Overtone, Starving Venom, maybe Plant Dracostapelia in some cases. You could get completely cooked, and your opponent could summon Alpha Lenitus, 5-head Dragon, just a lot of dumb stuff with Super Poly. Just Garura already by itself is pretty bad, and even Mud Dragon in some cases is also pretty bad. Just costing you like tremendously for your opponent. Just hard opening this random 2-of. They did print an overframe for this though, so that's something, I guess. Oh, before we continue though, I just gotta say like my thoughts on this overframe. I kind of like hate the design on this overframe. So you see how like this effect is going over like the card here, right? And then it just doesn't really go over the card down here, so I don't really like that. I mean, I know there's card text here, but I'd like this to be under the card text. That's like my personal preference. And then also this effect here, you see this effect, and then this effect, like this one just stops here. And you see this one goes through this part, and it just continues to like the edge. Why does this stop here? And then this one kind of like just fades out right here too. So I kind of hate this card art. Yeah. So yeah, not really a big fan of that. But Super Poly is good and all, but how do I play around this as the going first player? Well, I mean, the only reasonable way to really deal with this, I mean, there are a few ways, but they're not like ways that I really appreciate that much. So, I mean, the dumbest way is just don't play monsters. Yeah. I mean, if I just play traps, like regular traps, I mean, you can't really destroy regular traps. That doesn't really do anything. So yeah, Fallen on the Virtuous doesn't really get much mileage. A Super Poly, you're not really fusing anything. You're not negating anything because I don't have anything to negate, same with Crown. But there's also the next level where you just make it so your opponent cannot activate cards, where we enter the unfair territory. So we have ideas of like Jinzo, a special summon or normal summon a Jinzo or something. Invader of Darkness, we can just summon this. And there's also ideas of like instead of Invader of Darkness, we could in theory do like straight up just a spell canceller. But when it comes to just like the regular spells, they're not that threatening anymore. And most people are going to be playing like some variation of these cards. So you don't have to go as far as spell canceller. And also spell canceller is just kind of annoying to like search and actually get access to. Whereas like with this, we could like reasonably 2-card Fiendsmith into Invader of Darkness. So yeah, you kind of just have ideas to go into these guys to kind of deal with like whatever nonsense here, right? And there actually is an upside to playing these cards now. It's just okay. Have you guys read perhaps Rahamu? Once, while this Link summon card is face up on the field, you can normal summon 1 level 5 or higher monster without tributing. During the main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 level 5 or higher dark monster. During your end phase, you can reveal any number of monsters in your hand and place them on the bottom of the deck in any order, then draw cards equal to the number placed. So this has every single relevant effect for if we want to randomly main deck like a Jinzo or Invader of Darkness. And also this is completely generic to make, requiring only 2 effect monsters. So you're telling me I can just randomly summon this, randomly like maybe mulligan my hand a little bit, maybe get some, I don't know, hand traps, maybe not. Maybe then I just straight up get an Invader of Darkness and then I can just normal summon this. Preferably though, I guess the idea with Invader of Darkness is you wouldn't really want to mulligan for it because that could be too slow genuinely and you could get super polyed for your life savings during like, I don't know, let's say draw phase, standby phase. But ideally, I guess you would use this effect and then you would summon like Invader of Darkness potentially, or like Jinzo. Is there a good way to search Invader of Darkness? I don't really think there is. Dark Magical Contract, I think. Isn't that a card that exists that can search this? Yeah. Add 1 spell card from your hand to your opponent's hand, then add 1 level 7 or 8 dark monster from your deck to your hand. I mean, that's kind of funny, I guess, at least. But, yeah, I mean, only moderately searchable, probably. Aside from that, you'd probably want to just, like, have Fiendsmith for this, using, like, Aerial Eater, probably, and then A-Bow AQ this. That's the only generic way I can think of to actually deal with all of this nonsense. So, yeah, I mean, otherwise, like, what are you really supposed to do about Super Poly? Because, like, you just have to prevent the activation altogether. That or you need, like, a really dumb type of, spell negate where it has to work like, no chain. And I don't think we have a no chain spell negate that you can just activate whenever you want. I think we do have a few like cards that can negate Super Poly actually. So if you go like chain 1 Super Poly, it can just be negated after Super Poly attempts to resolve, right? And aside from that, for these cards at least, you do have one additional idea. So if you don't want to be like degenerate, like going into Summon Jinzo and Invader of Darkness territory, there's like one last thing we could realistically do. I don't know. Kind of like depends on the exact list, but we have ideas of doing something like just summoning the 6k Rex Remende and passing on that. So Rex Remende is genuinely unaffected, and this will apply to any Towers monster. But yeah, you can't Super Poly the Rex Remende because it's unaffected by Super Poly. You can't Droplet it because it's unaffected. Fallen and Virtuous, all you can do with this is you can opt one of the 2 equipped Fiendsmith kind of guys. I think the best one to pop is probably Agnumde, actually. Maybe. But there's still the idea of like Lacrima bring back Agnumde and then this just targets Rex Remende again and then reborns it. But yeah. After that, Forbidden Crown, well, it doesn't affect it, so it doesn't really do anything versus Rex Remende, so yeah, not particularly useful, right? I don't remember how the ruling works for Super Poly exactly either. I think Super Poly is not even activatable if you have like Rex Remende plus 1 monster on the field that meets like the requirements for a fusion target. I think you can only activate this if you can actually summon something with the Super Poly. So you wouldn't be able to activate like Super Poly if you were locked out of the extra deck as well, which is viable for exactly Super Poly, but it doesn't really do anything against these 3. Funnily enough, like if we were to like do Mech Knight Scars combo, this doesn't actually fully deal with like Fallen and the Virtuous randomly because you have ideas of like sending Albion to search Fallen and the Virtuous, and then you have the idea of sending the whatchamacallit, the Ecclesia, right? The extra deck 1, the Synchro 1, to then return something. I don't think you have anything like super good to return though for a single card, but that's removal, I guess. How does that even work, really? I don't think it works well. Surely not, right? So, yeah. The quick play spells right now, the ones that you just can't respond to or do anything about. Well, Pawn the Virtuous doesn't fall into that category, but it's notable because it's also a quick play spell that's being played a lot. A few more worth mentioning, I guess, is technically like the Radiant Typhoon stuff. Like, these are just being randomly splashed into things. So you have like the Vision, and then like MST, which is just moderately annoying. And that's where it ends with this. Honestly, this card's just a trade in, so it's not. It just cycles cards really. So unless you the card you send off of this actually is a plus in the graveyard for some reason, like this card genuinely doesn't matter in my opinion. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.